Holiday Hotline, a holiday romantic comedy novel by Panda D. Jones. Chapter 1, The Holly Situation. "I'm not making this up," the man on the phone insisted. "There are deer in my yard every morning, just standing there, staring at my lawn decorations like they're long-lost relatives." Callie Jensen pressed the phone to her ear and bit her lip hard, fighting the laugh threatening to escape. Outside her studio apartment window, Cedar Heights twinkled with December lights, the kind of festive charm that made everything look better than it was, including her life. "Sir, I think the deer are more interested in your landscaping than your inflatable reindeer, but if it makes you feel better, motion-activated lights might discourage them." "You're saying it's just a coincidence?" "I'm saying deer don't typically have strong feelings about Christmas decorations." He seemed satisfied with that answer, which was good because Callie was 5 seconds from losing it entirely. She thanked him for calling Pine Holly Holiday Helpline, delivered the closing script Gwen made her memorize, and hung up before the giggle could escape. This was her life now. 28, master's degree in marketing, giving wildlife management advice to strangers on a Sunday night. Her laptop dinged with a DoorDash update. Pad Thai delayed 15 minutes. Naturally. She pulled her oversized cardigan tighter and checked her bank account on her phone while the ancient landline system reset. The number staring back at her was a problem for tomorrow, Callie. Tonight, Callie just needed to make it through 3 more hours of her shift. The phone rang again. "Pine Holly Holiday Helpline, this is Holly speaking. How can I make your season brighter?" The script made her want to gag every time, but apparently cheerful consistency built caller trust. Also, tips. She'd made exactly $12 in tips this month. It was strange, choosing a name that wasn't hers. But Holly had felt right the moment she'd said it. The name of her grandmother, who'd taught her that love was something you made time for, who'd wrapped gifts with care and baked cookies even when arthritis made her hands shake. Holly had been effortlessly warm in a way Callie had never managed to be, competent in situations where Callie panicked and ran. Using that name, answering phones as though she had her life together, felt like borrowing armor for a few hours each week. "I need help with my gingerbread house." The caller sounded young and panicked. "The roof keeps sliding off, and I'm supposed to bring this to my girlfriend's family thing tomorrow. I'm starting to think the universe is telling me something." "The universe is telling you that royal icing is a structural engineering challenge, not a reflection on your relationship," Callie said, pulling up the troubleshooting document. Her converted dining nook barely fit the folding desk and Craigslist office chair, but it worked for this, answering calls about Christmas. Disasters while her own life quietly fell apart. "Yeah, tell that to my girlfriend's mom." They troubleshot gingerbread architecture for 10 minutes, toothpicks as support beams, refrigeration for stability, the radical concept of patience. Callie had learned more about holiday crisis management in 3 weeks than she'd ever wanted to know. Her phone buzzed mid-call. Text from Kevin at work. "Hey, wanna grab coffee this week? No pressure." The no pressure made it pressure. Kevin was nice. Kevin was safe. Kevin made her want to fake her own death and move to Canada. She swiped the notification away and refocused on gingerbread's structural integrity. By 9 o'clock, she'd fielded 6 more calls. A woman whose Christmas cactus was dying, wrong holiday plant. A teenager worried about disappointing his parents, wrong holiday helpline, but she'd talked him through it anyway. A man who'd panic-bought 6 identical gifts and needed return policy advice. Each call was a tiny window into someone else's crisis, which was infinitely preferable to examining her own. The 9 p.m. call changed everything. "Oh, hello, dear." The voice was older, wavering slightly. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all, Mrs. Chen. How are you tonight?" Callie had looked up Nora Chen's call history after the 3rd time she'd phoned in. Widowed last year, adult kids in different states, retirement meaning endless empty days. Gwen had been clear. If someone needed to talk, you talked, even if the question was really just loneliness wearing a holiday disguise. I was wondering about table settings for Christmas dinner. Mrs. Chen's voice was careful, rehearsed. I'm having my neighbor over, and I want it to be nice. The fork goes on the left, doesn't it? I can't remember. They'd had this exact conversation 4 days ago. Fork on the left, knife and spoon on the right, Callie said gently. But honestly, Mrs. Chen, I don't think your neighbor cares about fork placement. They'll just be happy to spend Christmas with you. Silence stretched across the line. Then, so quietly Callie almost missed it, she asked, "Do you think that's true?" Something in Callie's chest pulled tight. This was the moment where she was supposed to keep things professional, to remember that caring was a liability she couldn't afford. But Mrs. Chen's voice held the same hollow quality Callie heard in her own when she told Ruby she was fine, totally fine, why wouldn't I be fine? I know it's true, Callie said. Loneliness is the real crisis during the holidays. Everything else, the perfect decorations, the ideal meal, that's just set dressing. The person showing up matters. You matter. Mrs. Chen's breath hitched. You're very kind, Holly. I'm really not. The honesty surprised them both. I'm just someone who answers a phone. They talked for 25 minutes, about Mrs. Chen's late husband who'd loved Christmas lights, about traditions that felt hollow without someone to share them with, about terrifying vulnerability of inviting your neighbor to dinner when you barely knew them. Sometimes the scariest thing is letting people close enough to matter, Mrs. Chen said. After Harold died, I thought about just not trying anymore. But then I'd be so lonely. Callie's voice went quiet. I think trying is the bravest thing you can do, even if Callie herself couldn't seem to manage it. After Mrs. Chen hung up, her voice lighter, promising to go to bed, Callie sat in the quiet of her apartment. The half-eaten pad thai had arrived and congealed in its container. The space felt smaller in the silence, the string lights she'd hung up as ambiance now just highlighting the emptiness. She was good at this, she realized, good at helping strangers navigate their crises, good at offering comfort from behind the safety of a phone line and a fake name. It was her own life she couldn't figure out. Her phone buzzed again. Kevin, or not, just thought it might be fun. Have a good night. 3 exclamation points. He was trying so hard. She should say yes. She should give nice, boring, safe Kevin a chance. She should stop letting one mistake from last Christmas define her entire approach to relationships. She opened the text thread, typed, "Coffee sounds great," stared at it for 30 seconds, then deleted it and opened Instagram instead. Much healthier. The final call came at 9:58 p.m. Pine and Holly Holiday Helpline, this is Holly speaking. Silence on the other end. Then shuffling sounds, like someone had pocket-dialed. A man's voice, distant. No, I meant to call the tree farm. How did I... Click. Wrong number. She got a few of those per shift, people who'd meant to call actual Christmas-related businesses, not a holiday therapy line disguised as practical advice. But something about the voice made her pause. Deep, slightly frustrated, with warmth underneath. The quality of it tugged at something in her memory, though she couldn't place what. Callie shook it off. Every voice sounded familiar when you were this tired. She logged out of the system, washed her face, brushed her teeth. Before turning off the light, her eyes caught on the photo sitting on her dresser. Ruby's Christmas party last year. Dozens of people crammed into the frame. Her and Noah Reyes, shoulders touching, both caught mid-laugh. She'd kept the photo, even though she shouldn't have. Evidence of her cowardice. proof that she was capable of connection and terrified of it in equal measure. Noah had looked at her like she was worth keeping. With his carpenter hands, terrible jokes, and patient eyes, he'd made her feel seen. They'd talked for hours at Ruby's party about everything and nothing, and Callie had felt something she hadn't felt in years, hopeful. Then, Christmas Eve morning, she'd woken up with anxiety clawing at her chest and every instinct screaming that this was too much, too real, too likely to end with her hurt and alone. So she'd texted him a vague excuse about needing space, blocked his number before he could respond, and spent Christmas pretending she didn't feel like a coward. Ruby had been furious. Noah had been hurt. Callie had been safe. She turned off the light and climbed into bed, the memory of Mrs. Chen's words echoing. Sometimes the scariest thing is letting people close enough to matter. Callie was an expert at keeping people at exactly the right distance, close enough to talk to, far enough to run from. It was the only way she knew how to survive. Tomorrow would bring more marketing meetings and client presentations and pretending she had her life together. More hotline shifts where she solved everyone's problems except her own. It was fine. This was her life now, and fine was good enough. The lie was getting easier to believe.